Hello, and welcome to today's episode of the Staffing Evolution Podcast. For those of you joining us, my name is Michael Schneider. I'm the owner and CEO of Omega Digital Services. We specialize in helping staffing and recruiting firms grow their business and scale their revenue using the latest AI technology. On this podcast, we dive into the business of successful staffing and recruiting firms and learn about the cutting-edge strategies that they are using to grow their businesses today. So if you want to learn about how to take your staffing or recruiting firm to the next level, stick around. And if you're interested in a free growth consultation, drop the word growth in the comments or DMs or hit me up on LinkedIn. My guest today is the handsome and talented Hank Levine, founder of beadditive.com out of Maryland. Hank, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Michael. Excited to be on your podcast.
Thanks for being here. Why don't you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what you do?
Okay, well, I am a serial entrepreneur. I've been involved in about 4 different industries, but for the last 20 years or so, I've been in staffing and recruiting.
Okay. And what inspired you to get into that industry and start your business?
Well, I think like most people, uh, I never really planned to go into staffing and recruiting, but I was working with several venture capital backed software startups, mostly doing telecom back office software. We had big teams of coders, almost all from India, and I started helping a bunch of people with companies. This was around the early 2000s, and I was helping them with their companies, but they were very technical people, very smart, really not that good at running a business. But there was such amazing cost arbitrage. These people would work with family members in India, and almost in spite of themselves, they were having success.
Mm.
So, and around 2006, I decided that I've raised money before. I thought I could run companies much better than all these people I was seeing having success and that I could do it. So I got a company to hire me in Bangalore. I worked there for about 2 years, got to India a bunch of times. And one of the things I worked on there was starting a recruitment process outsourcing company for them. And once I learned how to do that, I decided to start my own.
Mm.
So my previous company to Be Additive, it was a offshore recruiting company. We had about 950 recruiters, so we scaled it pretty large. The recruiters were in India and the Philippines. And I left that to start Be Additive because I wanted to get back into software.
Okay. All right. What is the core offering of Be Additive?
So Be Additive, we also do staffing and recruiting, but the really fun thing that we're doing is we're we're going where the action is in recruiting, and that's in hiring senior AI talent. So we're
Mhm.
building an AI talent marketplace. It's a two-sided marketplace. On one side, we are working with funded AI startups who have an enormously hard time hiring senior AI talent. It's in very, very short supply, but also it's outrageously expensive. And even when these AI startups are able to identify people they'd like to hire, they have a hard time hiring them because they oftentimes want to work for big tech companies. They want to work at OpenAI
Mhm.
or Google or Amazon or a company such as that. So uh, they have their VCs who are breathing down their neck, telling them, build, build, build. Why do I invest all this money? Get a team together, start building. But without the people, they have a hard time doing it. So meanwhile, there's a very large supply of senior AI talent in India, Philippines, and Latin
I think you
America and
froze up.
other lower labor cost markets who would love to work for an American or European company. So, what our marketplace does is it matches up uh, the companies in the US and Europe who have open positions for senior AI talent with very skilled contractors in these lower labor cost countries who can work on long term contracts. We can get them placed in 2 or 3 weeks, and they're generally one third to half the cost of hiring someone in the.
You had mentioned that the talent in the U.S. is somewhat reluctant to work for the startups. And I was asking, what's the reception of the talent overseas? Are they more interested in working for the startups and the mid-sized
Mhm.
companies?
Uh, Absolutely. So for the talent overseas, they are extremely eager to work for a US or a European company. Really, two reasons. One, they get paid better. So they usually get a 30, 40% pay bump, which is significant. But the real
Everybody likes that.
advantage is it's much better for their profile to have international exposure. You know, the real action in AI is mostly happening in the US, and working for an American company really builds their resume.
Tell me about your approach for client acquisition.
Uh, so we just did a soft launch of our marketplace, mostly working with clients that we have in our staffing business. We have two placements, but we're building out our beta product now. We're going to do a more formal beta launch in February.
Uh,
So,
but how do you go about getting clients?
so we're getting clients several ways. One, I belong to a bunch of entrepreneurial networks, post-exit founders, entrepreneur communities, founders circle, and I'm a limited partner in a venture capital fund. And so all of these entities are working with lots and lots of AI startups. So that's the main way we meet people. We go to conferences. So I just attended the NVIDIA conference in Washington, D.C. And of course, there's lots of AI startups there. So conferences, we do use some AI tools like Apollo AI and so forth for outreach, but I would say it's mostly through our network and conferences that we're meeting people.
You were telling us about the marketplace, and we were talking about attracting candidates. The candidates in India and in Philippines are very happy to work for U.S. companies. Um, so, yeah, how do you go about attracting the candidates overseas?
So, first of all, my as I mentioned, my last company we had 950 recruiters, and they were in India and the Philippines, and so all the recruiters that are in Be Additive Tech, that's the company that's building AI talent marketplace. They all have come from my previous company. I had a pick of 950. So
Yes.
they're very, very good. They're very experienced. They've all worked with me for over 10 years. They have massive networks. They're all tech
Hmm.
recruiters. And so, first of all, they know a whole lot of people. We use tools like Juicebox and AI tools like Juicebox and stuff to also find new candidates. Uh, no one gets into our marketplace until they go through a vetting, and then we do in-person human interviews for any position they might be a good fit for.
Hmm. How's your vetting process? Tell me about your vetting process.
The vetting, so the initial vetting process is actually done through AI. So it's just to make sure that they have the basic qualifications and there are actually senior AI talent. Then we also use AI within our marketplace to match people to jobs, but that matching is just a very preliminary matching. We contact people with a live person and we make sure that they not only look good on paper, but we put them through a pretty rigorous interview, both in terms of technology, but and also cultural fit. It takes a special type of person to work for a startup. So someone who might have experience working at a giant company might not fit that well.
Hmm. What are the cultural things you look for to be a fit at a startup?
Well, it's gonna be very specific to the company because even every
Hmm.
startup is different,
Sure.
and so I don't think there's one answer to that.
Hmm. Okay. And do you take all comers when it comes to clients if they're in the AI space, or do you specialize with what type of companies you like to work with as clients?
No, the clients go through vetting too. So uh, we always do an intake call. If they look like they're a good fit for us, then there's different tiers of service that they can sign up for, and
Hmm.
they sign up for that. But one of the things I've learned through a pretty long career is if a client doesn't fit your model, you should never try to sell them anything because it never works out in the long run.
Right.
And
Yeah.
so if someone's just not the right fit, we just politely tell them that, and uh, we know lots of other recruiting companies we can refer them to.
Hmm. And what do you consider to be a good fit?
Well, they uh, need to have uh, first, they need to be funded. They need to have openings for senior AI talent that they can describe the needs, they can describe the position well, they can describe why it's an urgent position to fill. And as I said, we have very experienced recruiters who know how to talk through and build a proper job order with the client. If the client isn't able to do that, then they're probably not a good fit.
Hmm.
Or sometimes,
Okay.
they might have positions that they think are AI, but they're really just more uh, traditional tech position or maybe a very junior position. And other
Hmm.
parts of our companies can work with them on that, but they're not a fit for
Hmm.
the AI talent marketplace because the
Hmm.
vetted talent that's in the marketplace is all senior AI positions. So if you're looking for a junior developer, they won't be in our marketplace.
So these are people that are capable of like training a new AI model or applying. What are the typical skill sets of the people in your
Yeah,
marketplace?
uh, they're ML engineers and data engineers. They're applied AI research. A lot of times they work on infrastructure, cloud, and so forth, but always with an AI slant. There's a lot of people with specialized AI domains that we work in. So that could be anything from pharmaceuticals to and really any industry. It could be industrial, but it has to be AI.
Right. Right. Okay. um, what are your goals for the marketplace within, say, the next
Like,
year in terms
unfortunately,
of
you're
number of
frozen again.
clients, number of candidates? Uh-oh. Can you hear me now?
I didn't catch that last question.
Can you? What are your goals for
I
the
can hear.
marketplace for the next year within uh, number of clients, number of matches made, so on?
Yeah. So as I mentioned, we're really building our beta product now. It will be released in the middle of February. But our goal for the next 6 months is to have about 10 clients that we're working closely with. We look at our first beta customers as really co-development partners because we still have a lot of decisions to make internally about parts of the product that we build, parts that we purchase, and what we actually do manually. This is going to be
Hmm.
we're dealing with senior people, right? So they're not expecting just to talk to an AI agent. This is a very white glove treatment. There is a lot of human interaction involved in it, as well as a lot of AI.
Hmm. Yeah. And how much do you have your own internal development team that's building it?
Yes, so we have a spectacularly good person heading up our effort. He's in Michigan. He's been working in AI actually for about 12 years, so well before generative AI, working in
Mm.
several very large companies building AI products. And we have a team in India that he manages, but he's been managing teams in India for 10 years or so. So he's very comfortable
Nice.
doing that. So they're very, very
Yeah.
good.
Hmm. Um, how are you incorporating AI into your development teams?
Well, as I said, Vinay, who is our product head, we have a very well defined end-to-end process, both for the client journey and for the candidate journey. And in each piece of
I
that
was asking
process,
actually
we
for the
uh,
for the engineers who are building out your product. What use of AI do they have?
Oh, well, they're all using cursor a lot to do vibe coding. So I sit
Hmm.
there and I'm kind of amazed how far you can take things with cursor. I mean, things that 10 years ago, when I watched software development, you would have a team of 10 people. It would take them 2 months, and they do it in a day or two.
Yeah.
And a lot of what so a lot of this is starting, doing vibe coding with cursor, and then they have, their senior people, and they look at it and they make sure it has all the right security features and other things that software people do. I'm not really, you're moving a little bit outside my area of expertise.
Hmm. Hmm. Yep. Um,
I will tell you that it just does blow my mind in the
yeah.
vibe
The,
coding.
the the abilities of the AI tools are very impressive these days. Yeah. From coding to image generation, video generation, and it keeps changing. That's the other part. The evolution is so fast. You build something, and then 6 months later, it's already out of date.
Yeah, well, absolutely. We can second that with all the AI tools that we use just in our recruiting business. We have a tools assessment team. It's almost everything they assess is AI. And I all the time come across companies and they sound interesting. So I send them over to our tools assessment team. Oftentimes they will give it a bad assessment. They'll say it's missing this, it's missing something else, it's missing the third thing.
Hmm.
But I keep hearing about the company. So 4 months later, I tell them to look at it again. And oftentimes I hear it's like a totally different company.
Hmm.
Everything's fixed, everything works, they have new features. And so if you are adopting AI into your recruiting process, which you absolutely have to do today, or you'll get just run over by everyone else who's going to be more efficient than you. But it absolutely is a moving target. You have to keep assessing tools. And I do find a lot of times people get overwhelmed by that because there's just so much coming at them and everything's changing. And sometimes you can get analysis paralysis because it's just everything's a moving target. But my
Hmm.
advice to companies is don't look for a perfect solution. Find something that's good enough. Just start, use it. You'll learn what works. You'll learn what you need. You'll understand better other products as you assess them. But you really get that understanding by just using things and doing it.
Yeah. Pick something that moves the ball forward and then start moving the ball. Yeah. Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I would recommend if you're buying AI tools for your recruiting operation, I recommend everyone go month to month. Don't enter into long-term contracts because there's
Yep.
always new stuff coming out and everything's getting better. So,
Hmm.
use something, use it for 6 months, keep looking, change if you find something better.
Yeah. Um, how do you see other companies in the industry incorporating AI? What unique approaches have you seen in the recruiting and
Uh,
staffing?
I, I think I think most companies in recruiting have figured out that if they don't adopt AI, they're just going to be at an enormous competitive advantage. Because I will tell you, our recruiters are able to handle probably 3 times the workload they would have been able to handle 10 years ago
Hmm.
because so much of the more routine tasks are just all automated now. And so if you're not adopting this as a recruiting company, you're just not going to be competitive in the marketplace. And I think just about everyone in the companies I talk to have figured that out and they're at least
Hmm.
doing the first steps.
And typically, you see people using it in like evaluating candidates, evaluating resumes. What is the kind of progression you see from the first steps to being more advanced in their use of
Well,
AI?
so I think most recruiting companies are using uh, tools to source clients, like Apollo AI
Hmm.
is a good one. Uh, they use tools to source candidates, like such tools such as Juicebox. They use matching technologies. There's product like Sense and so forth that are very good at staying in touch with candidates and messaging. Um, so almost almost every step in the recruiting process, there's a tool for, and there's a lot of tools that are more integrated solutions. It's moving very, very fast. That's why we have like three people on our tools assessment team, and they're just always assessing tools.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, you're fortunate to have the resources to put together a team like that that really allows you to move fast.
Yeah, and well, yeah, and a lot of that comes because I was in, we ran a pretty large company before this one. So uh, I will tell you, the people in our company are very good. And
Yeah,
we didn't go through a lot of the pain that a lot of new companies go, making mistakes hiring people because we knew everybody.
that's a huge advantage. Yeah. Um,
Yeah.
how did the pandemic affect your operations?
Well, all right. So Beatitude didn't exist during the pandemic, but my last company did. And that was a very interesting experience. In fact, the AI talent marketplace is a direct outflow of that. So one
Hmm.
of the things that we were doing during the pandemic, you probably recall that there was an enormous shortage of nurses. And there were three or four companies who started these nurse marketplaces. They were basic apps on your phone that match nurses to open positions. But these nurse marketplaces just exploded. There were three companies that went from no revenue, a new product, to over $1 billion in revenue in 3 years. Now, since the pandemic, they're probably doing about a third of the revenue they were doing at the peak during the pandemic. But still, that was amazing to watch because our company, we were we were feeding candidates into those marketplaces. We were making some money, but we weren't making the money like the owners of the marketplaces. They were just cleaning up. And I watched that with, I was both impressed and jealous. And so, one of the things, the reason we started Be Additive is because we wanted to build marketplaces for various verticals. We looked at building a marketplace for K 12 schools, but that the education market has a it's very unstable right now. There's a lot of funding challenges. There's a lot of government changes happening in the government with funding and a lot of politicization of the whole thing.
Hmm.
So we decided not to do that, and we decided to go where the action is. And the action in staffing right now is in senior AI talent. So the staffing industry as a whole for the last 3 years has really been in a recession. But the one area that's just booming is the senior AI talents, especially around funded startups. So when you're in staffing, you don't create markets, you follow markets. And we're following, we're going where the action's happening, where people are getting hired.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, makes a lot of sense. Um, okay. And um, what are your goals for the business going forward beyond the AI marketplace? That's where you're all in on that. It sounds like, or do you have further initiatives that you're looking into?
But that's around, yeah. So Be Additive is actually a family company. So we have a staffing business, we have an employer of record business, and we have what we call a KPO business. That stands for Knowledge Process Outsourcing, where we build teams for American and European companies who want to build teams in India or Philippines, or we can actually work in 43 countries because we have partnerships with other employers of record. And so uh, the software product we're building, though, is very specifically targeted at AI talent for startups. Uh, but we can fill jobs in all these other areas.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Um,
The other parts of the company, technically, their biggest clients are all in Europe.
are they more interested in the process outsourcing in Europe?
I wouldn't say that, but I brought we have some really good salespeople from my last company who are working Europe, so they know lots of
Okay.
people.
So it just turned out that way.
Mhm.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good problem to have. Okay. I just have one final question. If anybody watching wants to get in touch, what's the best way to get in touch with you?
Uh, you can go to our website, www.beadditivetech.com. You can also reach me through email, hank.levine@beadditive.com, or you can look up my LinkedIn profile.
Okay. Well, Hank Levine of beadditive.com, thank you so much for being on the podcast.
All right. Thank you, Michael. It was fun.